Well, what's going on, y'all? It's me, Smitty, and there goes the dogs chasing after the neighbors. What's going on, y'all? Hey, I hope everybody's taking care of each other, taking care of the elderly, especially with all this this Corona, Chinese, whatever virus you want to call it. It's rough on everybody, and especially the small businesses, for having to close and mandatory, so on and so forth. I happen to be blessed as working in the automotive industry, obviously, and they have not shut us down. We are running on a skeleton crew though, so I mean it's pretty slim pickings. Being as I'm heavy line, I'm one of the few people that actually has work, because a lot of times, of course, if a car don't run or if it don't move, well, that's my expertise. That's where I'm at. So anyway, I hope you all are taking care of the elderly. Pay attention to them. Make sure they got what they need. Interesting thing, I went grocery shopping today, and that was an experience. I actually went two different places to try to find some stuff because it's pretty slim pickings. We have Publix down here, and I don't think I've ever seen a Publix as empty as this one was. Not just certain areas, I mean the whole store was pretty much wiped out. You can't hardly find any canned goods. The meats were pretty much gone, but I mean you all know that. Walmart was today, and that was actually pretty decent. They were starting to get more and more stock in, but there were still a lot of empty shelves. And I hate to say it, it's going to be worse before it gets better. So y'all just hang in there, take care of each other, be patient. That's the hardest thing to do, is be patient, because it's rough. It's rough everywhere, and you got to think about the people that are having to deal with this. On to better and brighter things. If you see behind me, we're in front of the donor. That's right, we're starting on the donor again. So let me get the hood up and I will tell you what we got going on. All right, so here's my plan of attack. Get these out of the way. Since this thing has been sitting for so long, what we're going to do, we're going to have to check the injectors. I want to make sure that we got power and ground, well, power, because the ECM controls the ground circuit. That's how it fires the injector. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to see, the fuel in this thing smells the worst. It smells like turpentine, which means it's totally soured. Who knows how long it is. I know the fuel pump's gummed up. I'm not going to put a fuel pump in this. The only reason why I say that is the tank's got holes in it, and we're just going to end up tearing it out anyway, so there's no point in putting a fuel pump in it. But what we are going to have to do is we're going to have to get a makeshift fuel system for this thing to see if it runs. I mean, yeah, I could shoot stuff down the throttle body, but I want to check the integrity of the rest of it, whether or not this thing will actually run on its own power. Now, granted, I've already taken the mass airflow off of it, but I've got that in the shop, so that's not a big deal. The fuel lines are readily accessible right now since I don't have the alternator on it. So we're going to see if we can get these crusty lines off here, and probably just take them off right here, see what we got, and we'll set up like a makeshift fuel pump assembly. I've got a couple of 2.5 gallon cans, and I've got a couple of fuel pumps, and I'll show you that here in a minute, that we can use. And basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to check to make sure that we got movement on everything, check to make sure the fuel pump relay is working right, because I have a feeling, because of money constraints, I'm going to end up having to use this particular power plant for Scarlet right there. So, and I'll probably end up using the 700. There is another 700 in this car. It's still all attached. All the cables are still here. So, you know, they're in good shape. And this one actually had cruise on it too. And there's the cruise bubble down there. Right down there. So, we need to see if we can get this one running. I think this one's got the big distributor in it. Oh no, it's got the small one in it. So it's got the small cap distributor in it, which means it has no vacuum advance. So that means the computer controls everything. But what I originally had in mind for this, I'm not going to give away because it's going to be pretty cool. But again, it takes funding for that stuff, and we're not there yet. So I'm trying to get some things sold so we can make this all work and we have funds to do the project. But you know how that is. Anywho, so I guess the best thing is to get the fuel lines off. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and separate the upper plenum from the runners. Get the fuel rail assembly out, because hard telling what's in that fuel rail, and it's probably going to be pretty nasty. And we'll check the injectors and see what kind of shape they're in. So somebody has been in here and painted this, because these bolts are usually black right there. So I think somebody's put some aluminum on it. And we might try to clean it up and do the same thing that we did with the 4L80 case, to get it all cleaned up and actually look halfway decent. It's got some serious corrosion going on here. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this thing looked like it's been all of its time over against the ocean. All the salt air. But, yeah. So, I guess let's get started on that. I'm going to go find some penetrant and get on these fuel lines. See if I can get those loose. And we'll go from there. Alright, so you probably full on didn't hear half of what I was doing. So let's go over this again. Got the key turned on. We got 12.4 on our power probe, and we're basically checking, see if we get power on these terminals, which we do on both of them. And that's fine, because the ECM actually grounds one of the terminals. So we've got a black with a pink stripe, and we've got a black wire. So it should be switching the ground side. So hold that thought. All right. So I've got my wife to come out and help me with this part. We're going to see if we've got some pulse from the ECM. Now, if it doesn't pulse, there could be a problem with the ignition module. So go ahead and crank it, honey.
I'll leave it cranked?
You just crank it. Oh, hang on a minute. We got a spark show going over here. You got the key on or off?
Off.
Go ahead and turn it on.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and crank it. Okay. Okay, you see that one dropped. Do it again. All right, so we're getting, the ECM is trying to ground that, but it's also taking the power away from the, you go ahead and shut the key off, honey.
Off.
Thank you. So we're getting some action from that, but the best way to test it is actually with what they call a Noid light, and I didn't bring one home with me. I will have to bring one home to test it again, but it's switching, which is what you want it to do. So next order of business is to check the ignition, make sure it's all plugged in, make sure we got power to the coil, and then go from there. All right, so all we're going to do here, you've got your two connectors on there. You've got your small connector that goes to the distributor, and your bigger ones is from, see, they're different colors too. The gray one is your supply, your black one goes to the distributor. So this, you got two different colored wires, and they're thicker gauge. They're going to be probably around a 10 or a 12 gauge, something like that. Probably a 10. I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm just guessing. But anyway, you've got a pink one that this one's kind of painted silver because they oversprayed the paint, and you got the white one. Your white one is your tack lead, because your tack runs off the negative side of the coil, and that's how it gets its signal. So basically we want to see if we got power on this coil, and you can just pierce the wire, and if you see there, it shows that you got power there. So we got power to the coil, so it's doing what it's supposed to. That doesn't mean that back underneath this cover that this distributor's plugged in, or if it even works. So what we can do, we'll pull this coil wire off, and we'll set up the old tried and true method with the screwdriver. And basically you want to do anything that's metal, just get it in there, and you can actually do it to the top of the intake if you wanted. Because what you'll hear, if it's working, what you'll see is you'll hear a snap. So if we don't have any snap, then that means that we don't have an ignition system. So it wouldn't fire without it. Let's see if I can get a good place for this to sit. That ought to work about like that. All right, I'm gonna go crank it. Well, as luck would have it, the starter doesn't want to crank now, so I guess let's try, see if we can get something past the ignition switch. Well, so much for that idea. Well, that's not going to work. Apparently the starter got stuck in the middle of a crank, and so now it doesn't want to work. So the only thing I can do is slide under there with a hammer and see if I can beat it a little bit. So let me try that, and I'll get back with you. Okay, y'all. It was just the starter stuck. So I'm going to turn off the lights. Maybe. See if you can see this. Alright, so I went back and looked at the video so to make sure that you could see it, and you can. So that little glimmer was the good strong spark from the ignition coil. So that means that our distributor is functioning properly. And plug wires are pretty sad shape, I can tell you that. So what we need to do is we need to see if we can get the injectors to open and close. And I may have to fiddle with that on the next one. Let's set you down in here. Hold that thought. Okay, so what we've got a I got an electrical test kit. Brought this from the shop. Let's get some test leads out here. That one and that one. Alright, so what we need to do is find a terminal that's about the same size as that, which should be probably that dude there. Let's see if that fits. Yep. Alright, so we're going to grab two of these. You know, I guess there is something that's good about no, it's not a lockdown, but it's a required stay-at-home thing, as at night it gets pretty quiet here. So you should, I say should, be able to hear this. Alright, basically what we're going to do is we're going to connect one end of the injector to the ground, because these injectors run on 12 volt, they're not a 5 volt, so basically we're going to see if it'll click. More than likely it will not, because it'll probably be grounded out. And let's turn the, oh, it's already off. Okay. So basically, yeah, so you don't hear nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Listen to that. I can't tell if that's the power probe doing the clicking. Yeah. Yeah, see, I'm not getting any response out of that injector. So we need to take the injectors out. We'll take the injectors out and try to soak them in some some BG or something like that, see if we can clean the gum out of them, because I'm sure the fuel rail's full of gum too. So we'll take it apart and clean that stuff. So I guess probably for tonight, since I'm out of daylight, that's probably all the testing we're going to do. So if you liked what you've seen, make sure and like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get all the latest updates. Leave me a comment, man. I love your all's comments. I really do. I get a kick out of it. Excuse me. Goodness. So, well, anyway, at any rate, hey, make sure to take care of each other with all this virus going around. Take care of the elderly. Pay attention to them, because they're not going to be as able to get out as we are. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Till next time, y'all. God bless. We'll see ya.